In India, every day about 6 students commit suicide due to academic failure. And there are many such students at the institute like IIT, IISER, IISER, and many other premium institutes. India has the highest student suicide rate with 38,000 students committed suicide since 2015. Suicide is the second highest cause of unnatural deaths around youngsters. Indian Council of Medical Research ICMR survey revealed that 12 to 13% of students in India suffer from psychological, emotional, and behavioral conditions. Academic distress, students' mental health, and student suicide in India, a crisis that need to be acknowledged. Hello everyone, welcome to Educanting. Today we are going to discuss about mental health, mainly on for the PhD students. And for that discussion, today we have with us Dr. Ayan Pal, Assistant Professor at Burdwan University, and Ayanda just completed his PhD from IIT Kanpur. And we have Pramit. Pramit is right now, he is a PhD scholar at University of Michigan, and before that he did BStat and MStat from ISA. So welcome to both of you. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just to start, I will first ask to Ayanda, like from your long education journey and mainly the 7-year journey of IIT Kanpur. What is your experience about on this point? What is your observation about this mental health of students? What is your view on this?
Well, so initially we completed our masters, and after that we joined PhD program. So it's very difficult to accept that transition. So because in masters program usually we have routine like things, because teachers teach the courses, and we can ask our teachers about the questions, about the problems, and we know that it's a 2-year program. So uh, ultimately it will stop at some day. But whenever we go to any PhD program after doing the masters, so it's very difficult to adjust with the mental setup. So I think that is one reason of these problems on mental health. This is one aspect. Another thing is that people are not sure after joining PhD program that whether it is a good option for them or not, because many of your friends will be working in some places, or are about to settle. So it's very difficult to judge whether I have taken the correct decision or not, because uh, um, so after that we are going to spend 5 or 6 years of uncertain life. So that is another aspect of this mental health. So problems related to mental health. So I look at this problem from these two aspects mainly. Of course there are other problems like this computational things, so that will come in the later phase. So just after joining PhD programs, people are often not sure whether they have taken the correct decision or not, or also about this transition is very difficult to accept in the initial days.
Oh, the same point, I want to know your point, Promit. Like you have 5-year experience of ISI and you have 3-year experience of Michigan University. And on the same point, I want to know from you, what is your experience from your journey and from your others or your friends' journey? What is your observation about this mental health?
So, first, one of the things I'd like to emphasize is whatever I'm saying is like purely my personal view and don't reflect views or policies of my institution or employer in any way, shape, or form. So, one of the things I feel is I'd completely agree to what Ananda said. When people come from a master's program, they have this timeline in their mind, like there is this 4 semesters which are going to end, so I'm going to get a degree. After that, I'm going to get a job or a PhD offer or JRF, something like that. But when people start their PhD, they're often very confused about what direction they want to go into, because, I mean, there are very few institutions where you get to do enough experimentation with things in a master's level, because there are not too many electives. Professors are usually like teaching from a specific set of notes, etc. So there is always that learning curve, like going from the mode of writing exams to being in a more exploratory mode. So, and that in a certain way becomes challenging to some people. But I mean, that's more of an academic aspect, why people find the PhD program hard. I mean, that's of course a reason of people feeling mental health issues. I mean, there are other issues, like I think in India, I have heard people not getting stipends regularly. So that's, I mean, once you are at a certain age, uh, you need to manage your finances, right? So uh, there is often that issue. And in many other countries, say like I think the situation is a bit better in Europe because it's probably more of a welfare kind of place where students get a lot of facilities like subsidized meals, subsidized housing, and etc. Like in US, you would find like literally almost no hostels or subsidized housing, those sort of things in most. I mean, if you're in a big city, say like Boston or San Diego or San Francisco somewhere, you would find that it's really hard to find a housing with your stipend and things like that. So obviously there is a financial aspect to it, and just like which Ananda said, and this is the era of social media, right? So people always keep comparing it. Okay, this friend of mine got married, and okay, she's buying a house, and etc. So things like that kind of keep popping into people's mind, no matter whether you want it or not.
Right.
And also there is exactly, there is another issue that often there is a mismatch of expectations from what the student is expecting of themselves and what advisors expect of themselves, because advisors are like academic professors, right? So they are mostly looking towards things which push students in a academic career or skill sets which can be valuable in academic career. So, but after PhD, if you look broadly, a lot of people nowadays end up in industry or many other places, right? Because there are not so many tenure track positions. I mean, at least in US there aren't. Uh, so a lot of people also feel this disconnect between the university training of PhD versus what they are actually gonna do themselves. So
And thanks for your points. And you already mentioned few things. And on that note, I would like to know, like if I think as a student, and you mentioned that as a student, the problem is like from a structured course structure to we are shifting to where we have an open-ended problem. That is a thing. And from that, and on one more thing, like I
right,
watched, I observed, I experienced that from my good friend, one of my good friend got attempt suicide, and many there is happening is many premier institute. And what do you think, like from a student point of view, why this is happening? Why the students from a premier institute, why they are attempting for suicide?
I mean, obviously, for one specific first person, the circumstances we don't really know. But in general, there are a lot of suicides in IITs. We always hear about. I think one of the things is most of these students have been pretty high achievers their whole life. Their parents,
Hmm.
their families have a certain set of expectations from them, and they have kind of always been. I mean, otherwise you won't be in IIT, right? I mean, if
Right.
you haven't filled those set of expectations, or ISI, those sort of places. So when I mean when I mean say you got to IIT, you cleared JAM, you did good in college, and then you get a zero in an exam after entering this becomes a bit hard thing to deal with for a lot of people. Uh, I mean, I fortunately haven't been there, but I have seen people who have been there, and uh, like, and often also it's not their fault because the teaching quality in many courses is simply not good. Let's just put it this way. I mean, I'm not blaming professors or anything, but I mean, there are issues with. I mean, they also have a set of responsibilities to fulfill and so on, and things get lost in the way, right? Uh, so one of those things is that, and also there is this issue of competition, which Ananda mentioned. Uh, if you are in this sort of institutes, you're always seeing like, okay, this friend of mine got an offer from here. This friend of mine is getting a job of X penny, XY
Hmm.
LPA, and I mean, I have seen people. I have seen some of my friends who are very uh, like who are very sad after getting a job at BlackRock. So, which doesn't really, which would not make sense to a lot of people. But I mean, for them, I mean, why not Goldman Sachs? Why BlackRock? So, I mean, I'm not discounting point of view in any way. I'm just saying that happens because you are at a particular place where people are high achievers, and you are always trying to compete with your peer group, no matter what. So,
like in this 5 year of PhD, how important, how much important is the teacher, is a student and the guide relationship, and also the
I think
importance
that
of
is the
family
most important. Yeah.
support. I want to know these two things from both of you.
Yeah, so these two aspects are very important. I think the most important in for any PhD scholar's life, because so it is guide who will finally give you the verdict on whether your work is uh, completed or not. So maintaining good relationship with your supervisor is the most important thing. And so generally so since we are talking about mental health today, so these problems related to mental health comes in different ways in different phases of PhD. So for example, when you join PhD, of course you know that yes, you join PhD and you have to spend 5 to 6 years on that. And of course life is not certain that you will be able to complete it, so no one knows what will happen. So we have just started and uh, let things go. So now you see that after completing first, so generally in every institutes we have the first year as coursework, so we don't see much difference with the MSc thing, because we have coursework again. Teachers will take courses and will be graded, and in most of the institutes, people don't start their work that seriously during the first year. So people don't think the difference between the MSc life and the first year of PhD life. But after the first year ends, so then actually the real thing starts, because now your research will start formally or officially. And so then actually I think students need to be patient during that phase, because the second year and third year is very important in any PhD scholar's life, because it is at that point of time you start going through new things, you start learning skills, different skills, and so on. So of course in most of the cases students find that yes, things are not working for many days, and let's keep it in different. So basically, so you should be very patient in the second year of PhD life, because it is at this point of time when you learn new things. And also you will see that most of the things are not doable, or you cannot follow most of the things. So of course things like that you'll be no longer continuing PhD or things like that will definitely come to your mind in this period. So you have to be very patient during that phase. So I feel that after completing third year, or when you are about to start your fourth year, so you will have an idea that yes, now you are progressing well. So I think the second year and third year is very important in any PhD scholar's life.
Okay, okay, got it. And Pramit, your viewpoint.
yeah, I think choosing an advisor is pretty important. And as Ananda said, like maintaining a good relationship with your advisor is always important. Uh, and one of the things is people have different advising styles, right? I mean, some
Yes.
people like to have shorter timelines, like finish a smaller project and then move on to other things. And some people like to work on a longer project and be more intricate mathematically. So it's very important to like communicate what sort of work you want to do and you want out of your PhD to your advisors and see if that's a match. So one of the things which I would say many lab-oriented departments have is like people do rotations. People go to different labs and try to see up for 3 4 months to see if their culture fits because uh, I mean, there are different advisors who is at 2 a.m. in night. So, I mean, if you are not really up for it, you are not really up for it. So, I mean, there are advisors who have other commitments. They don't stay in the summer. They You have to work independently in the summer, and uh, your meetings would be like after hours. So, if you are, I mean, not everybody might be okay with it. So, you also need to know your advisor's like working style very well to make sure, because you'd be staying with this person for next 5 6 years of your life.
Right.
So they they are
Mhm.
like pretty much of your kind of academic parent at that point. So so you need to
Right.
keep a good amount of selective criteria of what you want out of your PhD. Yeah.
Right. 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 Great point. And on the same second point, my question was like the family support. Can you put some light on that? For how important is that?
Think it's very important because like one of the things about PhD is you are dealing with uncertainty and failure on a daily level in the sense that if you want to write a good thesis before one good idea that works, 10 ideas don't work. I mean, this
Right.
ratio may be very different for people of different caliber, but in general, even if you look at the very tail end, people don't really are able to work out all ideas. So the major part of research is dealing on failure on a daily basis. I think I'm not sure if Ananda would uh, reciprocate this sentiment, but I mean specifically if you're doing more of a machine learning kind of thing, like machine learning is just tuning parameters, right? So you are training models on a daily basis. I mean, you are training a particular LSTM. I mean, it doesn't end up well. You have to uh, change your learning rate 10 times before something goes through. So uh, at some point, you feel a lot of dejection. So it's very important that you have a comment cool, peaceful family environment so that you are able to put your cerebral headspace in the PhD thesis because in a certain way, I mean, there are some jobs we are able to do without putting much mind. Like, so if you are if you are a PhD student in US, you would be supported as either a teaching assistant or a research assistant. I mean, some universities call it by different names, like, but basically it would be a TA or an RA. So, but I mean, when you have to do your teaching assistant work in at least like in many cases that I have seen, things vary, but I don't really need to actively put my mind to it to grade students' questions or to answer students' questions. Uh, uh, because those are things which you can probably at this point you have developed a certain reflex action kind of things, and you can do it. But you would actively need to put your mind towards your thesis. So it's very important that you are not distracted by like issues in family and stuff. It takes a certain amount of sacrifice as well because
Mm.
family members also have certain expectations from you that you'd be able to visit them, say, X many times a year, which often doesn't become possible if you are like in a different country because visa issues, international flights, etc. Or if you're in other parts of, say if you're at Kanpur, because Kanpur doesn't have exact flight connectivity, right? You need to go to somewhere Delhi or somewhere and take a flight. So, I mean, it often becomes an issue. Like, say if you're at Mohali, so it's also important for them to manage your expectations. I'm sorry, for them to manage their expectations because unless uh, they are like giving you a emotional headspace to do your PhD, it's pretty hard to do it. So there's that.
Definitely.
Yeah, right. 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 And on the one thing that when I am thinking about PhD, what should be the mental checkbox should I take like before taking the decision and taking of doing PhD or research is a taking decision of thing that thing is a very big thing, and or just for sake of getting the doctorate degree or getting high pay salary, that should be the my motivation of my PhD.
Actually, to start with, after doing masters, it's very difficult to think that way, that whether I am taking the correct decision or not. So mainly I will say that if you enjoy academics, then definitely it's a good option to join PhD because you have lots of freedom to explore different areas of the subject. And it is it's up to the student what he wants to do. So uh, without any permanent uh, job, then definitely he should go for it. And of course, he needs to love academics and things like that. So also it depends on it varies from people to people, because when I join PhD, I am not sure whether I will be able to complete it or not, or whether I have taken the correct decision or not. So, but after spending 2 years, I feel that yes, things have now become interesting. I can explore different areas. So I started loving uh, uh, the subject after spending 2.5 years. So it depends from person to person. So you need to give some time to the subject, and after that, let's see how things goes. Because nobody knows whether you have taken the correct decision or not. It is only after spending some time you will be able to find out that how it goes. I think yeah, so basically so I see it from this way, that suppose you have completed masters. So I think most of the people are not that sure about whether to join PhD or not. So uh, so that's the reason why often people in the first year of PhD tried different competitive exams, and at the same time they are attending coursework. So we have seen in IITs that people in the coursework are also appearing in many competitive exams. So I feel that in the first year it is possible, but during the end of the first year, at least the student should realize that what he wants to do, because otherwise life will become very difficult to continue. So so we should fix it. At some point of time, we should conclude that yes, this is what I am going to do. So so of course uh, it may not be possible to decide in the first year of PhD, but definitely at the end of first year, uh, people will realize that yes, I am doing it correctly or not.
Great. And anything to add from your side, Pramit?
I think there are like what Ananda said is very pertinent. Like initially, most people don't have a good idea about whether they made the right choice or not. Uh, but
Right.
I mean, like I mean, all of us are data scientists in a way, right? So you need to keep certain things in mind to minimize your chances. I mean, to maximize your chances of making a correct decision in a certain way. So I mean, obviously, what I'm saying is my own opinion. I mean, there are people who are exceptions about it, but uh, like I think you should do a PhD only if you want to spend the next at least 5, 6 years of your life, or even more if you go for a postdoc or things like that. Uh, actively doing research. Like actively doing research is very different from actively taking classes and taking exams. So which we discussed at the beginning. So
Right.
a lot of people simply think that, okay, I got high grades in these courses. Okay, I got an A, I got a CGPA of 9.2. Okay, let's apply at this point. That there is nothing wrong with that, because I mean, we at the end are a society which relies on external validation, right? So, um, and also like for getting I think PhDs are not really. If you do a job with a master's, you would definitely financially do much better. So I don't think. I mean, unless you want a job in academia, which would require a doctorate. I mean, so then it doesn't make any sense to do a PhD for the sake of a higher pay, because I mean, your industry peers will be making much more. So because people are doing much more immediate, tangible applications, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with any of these choices, but people have different set of expectations from their life, right? There are some people who are okay with like pretty much very modest pay for the rest of their lives, and there are some people who have different set of expectations from life. So it's very important to make sure that that you calibrate your expectations. Because I have seen a lot of people like in ISI who start their PhDs and then which Ananda exactly said, they start taking RBI or Indian Statistical Service exams, or starting on again try to start interviewing LinkedIn for Samsung, HSBC, or Goldman Sachs and whatnot. I mean, there's nothing wrong with any of it, but if you keep certain things in mind, it would just minimize the heartburn at the end. And also there is another aspect which many don't really think at the beginning of PhD, because we are what, like 22, 23 when we start our PhDs, right? So, or 24, something like that. So at the end of PhD is just the beginning of your academic journey. I mean, if you want to do the full Shanigan, you have to do a postdoc and then maybe a 10-year track, and then maybe so next 10 years of your life would be pretty much very unstable, because none of these are permanent employments, right? A PhD or postdoc is not a permanent employment. So you have to like live your life on a stipend, which is not a salary. There is that, and also you have to live with like temporary employments. And when people finish their PhDs, they're at a juncture usually at say 30 or something, when a lot of people get married, a lot of people want to settle down. I mean, a lot of families also want their kids to get married by that age. So those things are good to keep in mind, because I have seen a lot of people facing these issues with like now they don't know whether they want to go back to India or whether they want to go back to West Bengal or want to stay in the US. I mean, those things happen. You can't make the probability zero, but you can just try to organize your life in a way which minimizes the heartburn at the end.
That second thing I want to know from Pramit, that Pramit, you spent 5 years in Indian ISI 5 years, and also you have visited many other institutes in India, and then 3 years in Michigan University. So I want to get a comparative idea from you, like that the problem already we have discussed, now how the problem has been handled both in India and outside India, and why is the lag happening?
So, one of the things in India is this very high number of suicides per capita in IITs or places like this, right? So, this is one typical difference between American universities and like the Indian premier places. That usually in America, things don't really reach till the point of suicide, because there is a lot of institutional, and again, lot is a subjective word. By lot, I mean compared to developing nations, uh, there is a lot more institutional support. Like there's counseling available. There's and also there is another thing. Like I think these institutions, IITs for their undergrad, or ISI for their VSTAT or MStat, the curriculums, or if you go to like Beijing University in China or USTC, these places, or Tishwangha, these places are very hardcore compared to anything in America. These places are very hardcore compared to any top 10, top 20 US university. In US, undergrad education and master's education at a level, since this is a very expensive affair, right? So universities in a lot of ways depend on the revenue that's coming from students' tuition. I mean, say University of Michigan's tuition is what, say, well, I think $55,000 a year. So uh, like for international students, I mean, that's pretty much the range for every good university I've heard, like Duke, Harvard, everywhere it's kind of probably something similar to that. So universities in a lot of way don't really put students through that much pressure and treat students in a much better way than places in China and India do, because these are places which have a lot of money. They have a lot of institutional support, counseling, psychological services, 24/7 available resources, emergency helplines, etc. And also a lot of things. I think the suicide issue in IITs often, at least from the reports I have read in newspapers, they're often because a particular student felt at the end they won't be able to keep up with their parents' expectations, or they won't find a job that they desire, something like that, right? Since US is a labor scarce economy, so the problem of finding jobs doesn't really exist here, because I mean there aren't too many people to do jobs here to start with, right? So that's why This is a country which runs with immigrants. So the problems in US are somewhat different. Like divorce rate in US is like 50%. So half of the kids are coming from broken families where their parents have divorced. I mean, approximately half in a statistical sense. So I mean, that's a different kind of trauma to deal with, right? And so so the challenges are somewhat different, I would say, because the reasons due to which students feel burnout or depression in India are very different than US. Like here in US, you have a lot of TAs, office hours, everything to take care of your needs. If you cannot solve an assignment, there are many people out there who would be able to explicitly help you solve that problem. Because there are resources, they pay a huge amount of tuition. Universities are able to hire and many people for doing that job. That's not the case in India. In India, often it happens. I have seen that people just fall behind once and then they are not able to come back up. Right? Somebody fails a course, there is nobody to really guide them. Uh, what what's done? What are the next steps? Things like that. So the reasons are very different. In US, I think the rate of suicide among students is much lower because the mental health issues are more like loneliness related. I mean, US is a very lonely country. I mean, if you see outside my apartment right now, it's all snow basically. So there's barely anybody I can see. So things are somewhat different. And also in India, mental health is a bit of a taboo in many ways. Even people who are very educated don't really want their kids to go to therapists or take medication when it comes necessary. So I would advise everybody just, I mean, keeping yourself healthy is the first step. I mean, you can take care of what people think of you later. so, so that's really an important thing. I don't think these two things are exactly comparable because there is a vast difference of resources also, right? Here, if somebody drops out of IIT, it's kind of seen as a huge failure. I mean, here, if you drop out of, say, Columbia, you can definitely, after 2 years, you can definitely try to go to Yale. It doesn't really matter that much. So the stakes of failure are very different because it's a much richer country. Uh, so, so I don't think these issues are exactly comparable. I would say. I think. I mean, comparing to China might be more practical, but I don't really know how things are in China in this aspect actually. So.
Yeah, gotten fair idea about this thing. Okay, and from that want to know that from both of you, I want to know this point. Like in this 5 year of journey, in this 5 year of PhD journey, keeping yourself motivated and energetic is very tough. And what do you
Right.
think? What should be the step? And how did you guys keep motivated yourself? From one, I will start.
Okay, so you can definitely in PhD time we have 5 to 6 years, right, from this beginning. So we can definitely explore different hobbies because in previous institutes we have the scope to explore different hobbies. So one may like to play football, one may like to run. So definitely, I think for me, playing was the biggest source of motivation. So I love to play. Also, traveling is a very important. Many people likes to travel, so this is a wonderful period for travel different places. So because in PhD life, things don't work always. So maybe you can take a small break and travel to a particular place. And so these are some things, but on a daily basis, you can maintain a routine. So maybe you can play for some time in the morning, in the evening also you can play, or you can if you are interested in music, then you can play some guitar in the evening. So definitely you should find out things which makes you feel good. So that's one way of keeping one motivated. And also you will come to know different people from different areas. So so learning from them is also another source of motivation for me. So these are some of the things which keeps you motivated. So So you have to find out that what feels you well. So jogging, running, then so definitely fitness issue is another very important issue, because you have to fit physically also, to remain fit physically also, because because what I feel, or also my sir also used to tell me that you will feel at times that yes, now things are working. So basically put the maximum effort in those phases of PhD, because once your things started working, you should try to wrap it up as soon as possible, because things generally not work in PhD during most of the period. So so these are some of the things which can keep you motivated.
Yeah, very good point. And Pramit, from your side.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Like which you said, like playing outdoor sports or like music, which I mean, you just have to find what you are happy doing, and you have to keep some part of the day actually fixed. By fixed, I don't mean like a 5 to 7 schedule, but just you want to spend some time doing it. And also, activity actually helps. Like even if you're not into outdoor steps or staying, or specifically for those who come abroad, they have a huge shock because they come from a very warm country to a very cold country. So at least try to maintain 8,000, 10,000 steps a day in like a treadmill or just walking inwards,
Right, right, right.
something like that, because that really keeps things much better. And also try to find new friends. That's a part of coming to a new university. So
Definitely, definitely.
Yes, yes, and I completely agree with you guys. Like, you have you have to stay in the run for 5 to 6 years, and you have to find your own way. And you should also maintain, keep networking and keep friend with build friendship with other people and share your thought process, share your difficulty with others. That will that will make you relax. That will make you more free. That is the point, because that the question, the point is suicide. The suicide is not the solution. That is the main talk I want to say. That is the main point, that suicide is not the solution. Talk with other people, face the situation. That is the point. So on a general level, like we talked about mainly PhD student, on a general level, if we go the data, if I see the data, like the suicide rate in students and in the recent year, all mental health of students community is very concerning situation. So on that point, just I want to know from both of you, what should be the solution? What should be the
Mhm.
solution to overcome this thing? From Promit, I would love to first hear.
as so I think in India the suicide rate is something like 24 students a day or something. So which is
Yeah.
if I remember it off the top of my head correctly, I might be wrong. So which is like enormously bad. It's like one student killing themselves every day. And it's very bad in America as well. Like in 14,000, 15,000 a year. And US's population is what, like 1/4 of India. It's like 35 crores.
Mhm.
So it's pretty bad. And so one of the issues which has come up in many articles, if uh, so there is this generation wise divide, right? How people view mental health as a thing. Our elders see it, how we see it. There is kind of a divide. I mean, our elders were not very I mean, there is a parenting aspect to it. I don't think most parents I mean, I used to teach for a while for entrance exams in Calcutta, at least 4 or 5 years. By the way, most parents are very sympathetic to the needs
Mhm.
of the child's. I mean, the
Right.
children as because they are always like, okay, our parents did this. Okay, I mean, in that way, you could argue that someday Romans did this, so this is what you should do. I mean, that's not how it works, right? So, so there is a sensitivity thing to be developed among parents, because that's where things start, right? Parents is where kids spend most of their time outside schools. Also, like I think in now bigger schools like BPS etc. they have some sort of counseling, but In most people who go to public schools, they don't have those facilities available. So parents need to take care of that. And also people need to manage their expectations. People need to just keep the idea that your child is a individual. He or she or they are a different person. So you cannot really force your expectations or your wills on them and expect them to comply. And that doesn't really make sense because nowadays nobody, I mean, at least most people are not exactly planning to stay with their parents in a joint family for a long term, right? So since people are gonna go out anyway, just let them do whatever they're gonna do. So uh, I think that itself solves half of the issues if people were more compassionate towards each other. So I'd like to hear from Oyanda to revert the discussion to him.
Pramit had pointed it exactly correctly. So I feel these parents need to be much more compassionate towards their child. And so if we also, of course, suicidal rate is quite high in India, but also we have to see that majority of the suicides are not due to their work not going well. It may be due to other issues as well, right? So students need to be focused so they did not feel isolated. That's the most important thing because uh, PhD students can feel isolated at times. So so basically the main thing is that you need to keep yourself engaged in some place.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time and thanks for this conversation. So to wrap the session, for final tips from both of you. First, I will start from Mohinder.
Yeah, so of course PhD is a very good portion of your life. If you join PhD, definitely you will be free from the job because I have seen that once you enter into the job life, it's a completely different life from the PhD life. So PhD life is one of the uh, most valuable life and most comfortable life for me. So one should enjoy it. And I think so in my case I have felt that towards the end of PhD actually I was liking doing PhD. So unfortunately it ended in the 5th year, but anyways, so if things are manageable, then definitely you should continue doing research. And after doing all your research, I advise you to uh, join any job, because once you enter into job, not a lot of restrictions will come, and it's very difficult to manage everything at the beginning. So I wish many people will join PhD and enjoy their PhD life.
Pramit.
So I think the first important thing is for people to realize whatever they're doing, bachelor's, master's, or PhD, or a industry job or a R&D job, anything like, I mean, the most important person in your life is you. So don't
Right.
let others dictate what they expect out of you, because I mean, unless you are happy with yourself, you can't keep anybody happy. So there's no point of uh, like I have always seen this thing between teaching that, okay, my parents expect me to go here for college or to this IIT or to this place. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, I understand their point of view. I'm not saying they are bad people or anything like that, but I mean, we actually live in a very dog eats dog world. Let's just face that truth. I mean, people are not empathetic and compassionate, and we have to live in that world again. It would be ideal if they were, but they're not. So you have to create your own personal boundaries and space from everybody. I mean, that could include uh, your friends, your relatives, your advisor. You have to have
Yeah.
some sort of boundaries that, okay, these are not things, these are things I don't cross. And that I think solves many of the issues. And I mean, people are not very good at respecting boundaries in traditional societies like India. I mean, this is
Right.
not to say India is bad or anything like that, but uh, like I mean, the go-to reaction of our parents. I mean, I don't mean my parents or anybody's parents in general. Is usually okay. I mean, like in Bengali, "ছেলেকে এটা বললাম, এটা শুনলো না." I mean, this is not how it works, right? I mean, uh, people have their own perspectives, and they have decided what they want to do and not do. And we have to and we also have to respect what they want to do or not do. So uh, I think boundaries is a very important part, whether you are doing a job or a PhD or these things. And nothing is more important than like staying actually healthy. I mean, if something
Right,
doesn't permit, uh, I mean, people have different thresholds for stress. Some people are very good
right,
at handling stress, and they perform very well. I mean, for some people, you have to write them like 10 ICMR papers a year, they would be at the peak of their creativity. There are people like that. So, uh, but you need to manage what you can do, because I mean, there's an inherent level to which everyone can perform, and people have to find that, and you have to find some way to deal with it. And
right,
there's
right.
that. And another thing which I would like to add, by for I think I'm the youngest in this group, and one of the problems which happens, which like Oyanda mentioned or Sweta mentioned, like there are a lot of external factors when people commit suicide, right? So one of the
Uh,
things that I have seen with quite a few people, I mean not anybody in particular, people get into toxic relationships. People are very very
uh,
scared about being lonely. I mean, there's no point. I mean, unless you are happy completely in a relationship, I mean, things won't be ideal always. But yeah, I mean, try to isolate. Uh, I mean, being isolated and happy is much more important. I mean, much more
right.
better than being in a toxic relationship,
Toxic.
which often is the result of which often is the reason of suicide among students. I mean, people have failed relationships which were very toxic to begin with. If you see the student
Exactly.
suicide stats in India, I think that would be a reason which would be at least in top 10. If you have to point out, I don't have the data at the top of my head, but so just we have to keep that in mind. I mean, I'm not saying to anybody like that's it. I mean, thanks for holding this discussion again. Like, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot to both of you for your time, and for through this video. I also want to say that thing, like all the students, if don't feel that alone, don't feel stressed. If you feel any kind of mental stress, mental illness, and please reach out to me, and through my YouTube channel, through my mail, through my WhatsApp number. Please reach out to me, and please talk with your friends, with your family member, and please find someone with whom you can share your all your difficulties. Please share your difficulties. Please share your all thoughts. Don't keep it in your inside and be don't attempt something bad. And that is not the solution.
Right, right.
That is the
Definitely, definitely.
main word I want to say through this video. So again, thanks to both of you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for managing your time, and for creating a
Yeah,
content
thank you so
insightful.
much for hosting this discussion.